the realization of non-duality functions at different levels. You could say there are some stages to this, or some deepening of the unfolding of the recognition of what it actually points to, what the term points to, or the attunement. Initially, we find ourselves, or at least I found myself, in a world that was endlessly trying to divide itself, the world of thought. And the feeling of being trapped in that world, the feeling of being a suffering someone trying to find a way out of that suffering, or trying to find a way to be, or the right way to be, and really having no context that worked, the ways I perceived other people communicating and so forth, trying those out in this space that I found myself in was like pouring gas on the fire, just made it feel worse. So I think it occurred to me pretty early that no one really has this figured out, or at least no one I met had this figured out. And by this figured out, I don't mean like the meaning of life or something. I mean how not to just suffer constantly, or be so dissociated that you don't know you're suffering and causing suffering to those around you. And that was not a fun place to find myself, as a child or older child, young adult. And the mechanism I discovered that was causing that was actually a very simple one, and it was very accessible to me, which was really a huge revelation. It was like such a gift to see that. And I don't really know how that happened exactly. I can think of a couple points in time of conversations or lectures I heard or whatever that seemed to reveal it. But ultimately, I think it was probably born of introspection, of really wanting to see like what is actually going on. Why do I feel like so contracted, or feel like there's something wrong with me? When we do shadow work, we do circling work, shame comes up. It's not the only emotion that comes up, but it's a distinct emotion in that it's really tied into identity. It doesn't feel like a pure physiologic emotion. It's some combination of a physiologic experience and a really heady experience in a way. And so maybe what I could say is what I discovered was just endless shame that was tied into the thought process itself. And when I discovered this mechanism that somehow revealed itself, that was causing at least what seemed like most of that suffering or that pain, I was fascinated. I was fascinated by it, totally fascinated by it. I spent about maybe 1 minute marveling at the fact that no one's talking about it. But then it was like, I don't really care. Like, obviously no one gets this or whatever. I mean, no one I knew ever had revealed it. And yet I found it in a book. I found it, it's obviously something that has been touched on by someone somewhere. But I wasn't as concerned with that as I was concerned with utilizing the revelation and knowledge about that mechanism to undo it, or I actually didn't even know at that point I was going to undo it. I didn't know I could really surpass the mechanism or circumvent the mechanism, but I knew that, but I felt this is where the instinct started to come in. It's the first time I felt instinct in the way I use the word instinct. There was an instinct that said to keep going. Again, I didn't cognitively know, like, oh, I'm going to somehow short circuit this mechanism, and on the other side, there's going to be this freedom. I didn't know that, but I was really compelled to keep investigating it. I was really compelled to keep searching through that mechanism that was revealing itself. And the mechanism was, again, a simple thing. It was the mechanism of dividing thought, right? Thoughts dividing reality into this and that, past and future. Probably most poignantly for me, as far as what was causing suffering, what I am and what I'm not, right? What I am and what I'm not. And when I became socially aware around puberty, I remember it becoming worse, actually. I remember the feeling actually becoming a lot worse, and more oriented toward like what's wrong with me. And now, in retrospect, it's clear why that happened. It probably happens to a lot of people, maybe not everyone, but it's clear why that happens, because the sense of self and other becomes so strongly demarcated through behaviors, your own behaviors and behaviors of those around you. At least for me, that's what was happening. And so it was even more poignant. Those thoughts were so much attention was going into thoughts. Like, what is going on here? Right? What is going on here? And interacting with other people, I could tell they believed the thoughts, and I'm not sure if I believed the thoughts, but I knew there was something not right about it. There was something confining. And in fact, the more I looked at it, the more uncomfortable it became. And yet my instinct told me to keep looking, keep investigating there. As I wrote in my book, there was a line in, I think it was 3 Pillars of Zen, that said, thinking is the disease of the human mind. And that really struck me. It really, really struck me, because I think up until that point, I had just received the message about thinking and thought that it's like the crowning glory of the human species or something, right? Like, oh, we can do anything with thought. And thought is so, imagination and like, and I think I probably sense that many people really feel that way about thought. And for me, it was like so opposite. Thought was never comfortable for me. It just wasn't. It was never comfortable. Maybe it seemed useful at times. It seemed like I could find ways to use it to escape or seek or anticipate or whatever. But none of those seeming coping mechanisms were ever satisfying for me. I know that. They were rather unsatisfying. And the more I saw that they were unsatisfying, the worse it got. Right. So that line really was very refreshing. It's like, oh, someone else actually sees this. Then again, that kind of brought online that instinct that I could trust, that like, oh, I can trust this instinct that this whole time has said there's something wrong with the way this is going, this thought process, right? This processing through dividing mind, what I am, what I'm not, and you could put it in a very simple way. Like, as soon as I think I am this, then there's a whole lot of things I'm not. And it makes me feel very separate, very, very isolated and so forth. If I'm me and all these other me's are out there, or these yous are out there, all of us with our own separate agendas, many of which oppose one another, like that's a really isolated, uncomfortable way to experience reality. And yet, if you go into thought to establish your experience, that's what you see again and again and again, right? Dividing. So I started to, I guess, build a bit of confidence that there actually is a way through this. And the way through this is my own instinct. And that instinct was validated in several ways, but that line is a poignant example, that thinking is the disease of the human mind, that didn't stop. That didn't cause the problem to cease right away. The experiential mechanism was still going, but there was something else going on, very obviously something else going on. And again, I just call it instinct. It's not something I can tell you what it is. Everyone in this room knows it, to various degrees, of course. But someone who may see this on YouTube, they may not actually recognize what I mean by that. And that's okay. Just keep looking. Look at the problem. Look at the problem and trust that you're not here to suffer. And at some point, you'll start to feel there's actually a way out of the suffering. There's a potential to not feel this this cauldron of suffering that is created by thought. Thought. People call it all kinds of things. It's become so normalized, right? Anxiety, depression, rumination, all of it. So it's suffering is so common that it's normalized, right? But suffering in the way I'm talking about is almost completely related to thought. So the first recognition of what non-duality means has to do with this mechanism. And it culminates in an awakening. It culminates in a shift in identity, a shift in experience. But really what that is a shift in our perception of the way thoughts function. Because up until that very moment of that shift that I talk about, Kensho, up until that very moment, there's a strong buy-in to thought. There's a strong buy-in to thought. It may not be all thoughts. You can learn mindfulness. You can learn meditation. You can start to recognize thoughts as such. And all of that is important. It's good work. And yet, for various reasons I may not go into great depth on because of the nature of this talk, but for certain reasons, that doesn't necessarily lead you to stepping completely beyond the grasp of thought, usually. What it does is it leads you to a place where you can get some respite from thought by meditation, by mindfulness practice. And yet something just runs right back to what feels like you and thought again and again and again, right? And that, if you're trusting your instinct on this and trusting that you are not here to suffer, you will usually come to this place where you realize, okay, meditation's great, mindfulness is great, it does something. It gives me some freedom while I'm doing it. But the core of what I feel like I am is still really intertwined with discomfort of some kind, some existential discomfort, some suffering, some enclosure. Enclosure is maybe a good word for it. For me, it was very enclosed feeling. And then with that instinct, you can really start looking closely at the mechanism of identifying with thought, right? What is actually happening when the apparent me, whatever I'm taking myself to be, is identifying with thought, one thought at a time, just like we were doing yesterday, one thought at a time. If you look close enough, you will see it. And when you see it, as it said in the Thomas Gospel, you will be astonished. You have to be, because it's so crazy. It's so obvious. It's so simple. It's so right there, and it always has been. And yet it was overlooked. It was overlooked because of the way you were looking, the seeking, the focus of attention in thought, the focus of attention through the lens of thought was so rigid in a certain way. The feeling that I have to believe this one thought. I can let go of all these other thoughts, but this one I have to believe, right? This one I have to believe. This one's really important to me, right? What is that thought for you? Everyone's laughing, so apparently they get it somewhere in the side. But what is that thought for you, right? That's what it is. That is the mechanism is, okay, yeah, sure, I can let go of thoughts, but there's one I'm not going to let go of. Why, right? And the why there is usually emotional in nature, because it can trigger a kind of fear response. You feel the fear response I talk about a lot, maybe too much, this fear barrier. Not everybody experiences that in this, right at this moment of shift or of letting go, but they will usually feel it at some point leading up to it. But it's not as much the fear that is the point. The point is the unknown. You're going into the unknown when you let go of that last thought. When you let go of that tendency to grab onto thought, that is the last thought. The thinker is the last thought. The tendency to grasp thought is the last thought. The belief that I can't let go of all thoughts is the last thought, in a way, right? And so, in a just maybe convenient way of talking about it, what's happening is you're seeing through the illusion of the thinker. You're seeing through the illusion of the one that had to keep itself propagating by believing thought after thought after thought after thought. That's what you're really letting go of finally. And it is ultimately just a thought or a thought form. But it's a different kind of letting go than previous, letting go of one thought after another, like the kind of mindfulness thing. It's a much more radical and a kind of closer experience of release, let's say. But it's definitely possible and doable for anyone if you really look closely enough. And you're willing to feel uncomfortable, and you're willing to go into the unknown. That's really the ultimate final barrier, I think, is, are you willing to just step right into the unknown? now. And that will happen when you let go of the thinker or the belief that there's that one thing you can't let go of. All right. When you let go of it, that's your first experience of non-duality. Non-duality means not two. Thinker and thought are not two. The one who felt like I had to hold on to all the thoughts and the space in which every thought, every perception, every belief, every past, future, every problem, solution, all of it has always come and gone, appeared and dissolved, is just in this vast consciousness. And not to put too many words on this, but you are the consciousness. You realize, like, not just you are, all of this is. It's just this vastness. And you won't want to give it a word at this point because you won't want to grab onto another thought or formulate a thought or fabricate anything. It's just this vastness, this emptiness, this spaciousness, this maybe oneness. But all those words, just wipe them away because they don't mean anything here. That's your first realization of non-duality, and that is really the foundation for everything beyond that. That's why when someone shifts, I just say, just stay right there. Just stop. Don't listen to any of this other stuff. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about further stages or principles or whether this speaker's right or that guy's right or this girl's right, or like none of that shit matters. And you know that now. You know that. That's your gift from the universe. Yeah. It's also your birthright. And really, with a few slight adjustments or caveats over time, all you're really called to do is really stay with what you realized. Just stay right there with what you realized, which may feel fragile. It may feel a little at first, because it's actually a subtle thing. The letting go of that last thought. It's strangely subtle. And the fragility of it is because you're so used to doing something with thought, with the mind, that it feels fragile to not do something with the mind. But it's also totally possible to not do something with the mind. Papaji was really good at speaking about this. He would lead these conversations and these pointers, these satsangs in this way. Just stop. Just stop. Don't make one more thought. Don't move your mind. Don't create anything. My Zen teacher used to say, don't make anything. Right? So simple. And it's this like kind of delicate balance.